Hello guys, this is my first introductory video to IB economics. And first of all, many of you guys think economics has something to do with like stock exchange or like a trade of money, but that's not really that's part of economics, but that's not what what the core idea of economics is. Well, first of all, economics is a social science. So what is social science, you may ask? And by the way, sorry for this low quality video, low budget video. It's just an introductory video. If I start to maybe I'll use a different app or something. For now, it's just an introduction. This is gonna be fine. It's gonna be understandable, so it's fine. But economics is a social science, and social science is basically a study of how societies and individuals interact with each other. And in economics, it's the study of how they interact to balance the infinite needs with finite resources. And I cannot spell right now. There you go. And this idea is actually what's the core idea of economics, and it's related to the idea of scarcity. And scarcity is the finite resources. It's the fact that we don't have infinite amount of goods or resources to satisfy the infinite needs we have. Instead, we have finite resources. We have scarcity, which means that we cannot satisfy or sustain these infinite needs. And what we have to end up doing is to decide how we allocate these finite resources in order to maximize satisfaction or uh, to maximize the utility, or in economics we use utility as a different way of saying happiness of consumers, of producers, or the government. Those are what we call stakeholders. And that's the core of economics. It's how we challenge or how we fight against this idea of scarcity. And there are types of scarcity. For example, there's land. Land is Land, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we need land to produce goods and services. For example, we need space for factories, we need space for buildings where there's more of the managerial aspects of it. We need space for example, the cows and stuff. It's just idea that we need land, and there's a scarcity of land because we don't have infinite land. Most of the earth is covered in a body of water, and even if there's land, we don't have that much. We don't. Not all of it is good land for production. And of course, the Earth is very big, and there's a lot of land we can use. But in relative terms to the infinite needs we have, the land we have is finite to produce and satisfy the infinite needs. Now we have another aspect, which is labor. It's the fact that we don't have enough laborers to satisfy the infinite needs. We have a lot of people in this world, I think 7 billion something in this world, but doesn't mean that first of all of them can work. Second of all, even if all of them can still work, it's still not going to be enough to just produce to have to produce goods and services for this infinite need. And lastly, we have capital. It's the tools that we use to help with the production. For example, machinery in factories. This is an aspect of capital. And again, we don't have infinite capital to help us produce infinite goods and services to satisfy infinite needs. And these are important uh, factors or aspects of scarcity. These are important things that are scarce, which causes this problem of finite resources not being able to sustain infinite needs. So land, labor, and capital. This is three of the four factors of production, which we'll talk about later briefly. The other one is entrepreneurship. Right now, it's not really related to that because entrepreneurship, you cannot really have scarcity of that because it's the creativity of people and their thoughts. But again, these three factors of production is scarce, and that's what economics have to decide how we allocate these scarce resources in order to produce the goods and services we see. So, key person to realize, Adam Smith. He is the first thinker of economics. He is the one with two first names, Adam and Smith. And I think he didn't invent economics because before Adam Smith, there's always economics. For example, people traded goods for something else. Doesn't have to be money. That was still economics because there was a market. A market is where goods and services are exchanged between consumers and producers. So Adam Smith is the one that really thought about what's happening, really created this this topic of understanding called economics. But again, economics always took place. Whether we talk about the present times, or whether we talk about historic times, whether we talk about a certain economic system, which I'll talk about later, or whether we talk about certain cultures, countries, there's always these three important economic questions that always producers ask uh, when producing goods and services. And first of all, it's what should be produced? Because again, we have finite resources. So what exactly do we produce with these finite resources? And this decision is very important. And the person that decides this decision depends on the economic system, which I'll again talk about later. The other question we have is how should it be produced? Should we use certain capital to produce this good? Should we not use this? Should we use technology? Should we use laborers? These kind of questions are always coming up for producers, and it's this question. This question is asked because we don't have infinite resources, and we need to allocate these resources appropriately in order to produce goods and services. And again, the last one is from whom should it be produced? Again, I keep on saying this, but this is so important. There's finite resources, so we can't make infinite goods. We can only make finite amounts of goods and services. So who should be who should those be produced for? Should it be produced for people who are richer, people who are younger, people with different races? Those are questions that producers always have to ask. And these three questions are important economic questions that that is asked subconsciously or consciously by producers to combat the idea of scarcity. And again, I talked briefly about market systems, or sorry, economic systems. And there's basically two types of economic systems. One is command economy, and that's when government controls the economy. So what they produce is controlled by the government. How should they produce should be is considered is decided by the government. From whom should it produce is decided by the government. And this is the idea of socialism. It's the idea that equality is more important than efficiency. But there's a problem with that. Because first of all, there's corruption from the government. There's lack of individual property rights. There's the fact that the authority does not necessarily know everything and it cannot make the right decisions. These things cause inefficiencies in the economy. And when there's inefficiency, the fact that there's already a scarce resource, but the fact that we're being inefficient with those scarce resources is a big problem. And that's why we don't really see command economy anymore, like we saw in the Soviet, for example. The other one is called a market system. And this was thought about, or really discovered, I guess, by the big boy Adam Smith. He said, first of all, individuals should pursue their selfish objectives. We're all selfish, and we know that. And if we actually use that in favor for our economy, then people will automatically uh, consume and produce goods and services, which is beneficial for individuals and also society. And this is the idea of laissez-faire. It's a French word. I'll just write it down as well. This is this was written by Adam Smith. It literally means let it go, and it basically means the government shouldn't intervene. We should just leave it all by itself for consumers and producers. But I mean, in reality, that does not always work out as well. And that's why in the current economy, most economies, we see something called a mixed economy. And this is a combination of a market system and a command economy because we do need, I mean, we don't, there's debate about this, but many countries think we need some sort of government intervention in this market system. So this is basic. This is the basics of economics. A little, I guess, history or a little insight to economics. There's way more to this. There's so much more. This is just the tip of the iceberg. And again, we don't really need to know this for IB economics, but it's for sure a very important thing we should know about when we get into economics because this is the foundation, this is the base of of economics and the subject of economics. So I hope you guys enjoy that. Sorry, this is a long video and like the quality, I mean, I'm just using Google Drawings, but I hope you understand a bit about what economics is.